seems like buckle up for if you're going to try to go to stage yellow, you probably have to embrace a lot of like, I don't know, or wow, I don't realize how much I don't know, you know, and drop the certainty. It is crazy. There are a lot of people that are awfully certain about things, you know.
And that's why they say yellow is usually kind of going to tier 2 is kind of like a quantum leap, because all the other stages up to yellow claim to know. They have the answer. Here's the answer book. And yellow's like, oh, there is no answer.
Yeah, how can you think something a novel thought without like embracing the unknown?
Have you ever wondered where your values and your belief systems come from? Way back in the day, you and me did a whole series on spiral dynamics, hour-long episodes that you can break down and look at to understand, you know, what you value, why you believe what you believe. But in this video, we're going to do a reaction, a great one done by Max Saris. It's just a simple breakdown of spiral dynamics, which is just a system for understanding your values and your beliefs.
Love spiral dynamics.
Yeah, so this is like if you've never heard of spiral dynamics, this is going to be a great video to give you an introduction and, you know, help you understand maybe yourself a little bit better.
And where you're headed.
That's right.
Wouldn't it be nice to know where you're headed when it comes to your beliefs, goals, and values? Wouldn't it be nice to have a roadmap of where you're headed? A model that describes how your psyche evolves. And that model is called spiral dynamics. Spiral dynamics describes how the psyche, groups, and societies as a whole evolve. See, there are certain patterns that we as individuals, as groups and societies go through. Our values evolve following a certain pattern. And spiral dynamics proposes that there are 8 different stages we go through. And each have been assigned their own color. And they are as follows: beige, purple, red, blue, orange, green, yellow, and turquoise. And these stages all have one thing in common. They all seek to answer the question, what is life about? What is the meaning of life? So without further ado, let's get started. At the lowest level,
I think just before we get into it, try to see if you can find, like if you're a viewer out there and you're watching this, try and place yourself.
Oh, isn't that like what you're not supposed to do?
No, I say try and place yourself. Try and find yourself where you might be.
Everybody I've ever talked to about this places themselves somewhere, and it's
usually way higher than it should be.
Well, when we first learned about it, the first person that we learned it from was like, by the way, people always place themselves like 2 categories higher than they actually are.
Yeah.
Which is just hilarious because, you know, when you think about it, it's probably true. And but yeah.
level on spiral dynamics, stage beige, the point of life is simply survival. Think a baby or an animal. They only think about survival and getting their basic physiological needs met. Food, water, sex, and safety. It's very much only about me. What do I have to do to survive? With no regard or concept for others. And when you see that you can't survive that well on your own, and that you need to recognize the existence of others, that's when you move on to the second stage on the spiral. Stage purple. Think tribes. The individual becomes like an organ of a larger organism, the tribe. Everything is about what's best for the tribe. Now it's about other, with no focus on yourself. How can you serve your tribe? And belief in magic and spirits is also very common at this stage. Stage purple seeks truth in the environment, in spirits, and in the wise elders. And the point of life is to please the spirits and to help the tribe survive. Other examples of stage purple include gangs, kamikaze pilots, mythology, astrology, and superstition, and Ewoks from Star Wars. And when you feel like the tribe doesn't serve your own personal interests, that you need more autonomy, you move on to the next stage, stage red.
Before we go into stage red, I just love that, like, there are whole chat pages and forums dedicated to lists of things that fall into certain categories. Like, I never would have thought of kamikaze pilots as stage purple. But it makes
sense, though.
Of course it makes sense, right? Magical thinking. But it's interesting. You can go find these lists of things that fall into the different categories.
And sacrificing for the tribe, a kamikaze pilot, you know, would probably like go up like, I'm probably not going to make it, but hopefully, you know.
Yeah.
Kamikaze.
Actualize.org's got a forum where they list different things in different categories.
Stage red is all about satisfying your own needs. Now it's again about me, me, me. The point of life is to dominate others and get all the resources for yourself. So unsurprisingly, this is the stage of tyrannical leaders, like dictators, corruption, and exploitation. Examples of stage red include the use of brute force, displays of toughness, also trying to show others that you're better than them, machoism, or trying to be as manly as possible, prison culture, Vikings, the Russian government, criminals, Trump, respect and loyalty.
Donald Trump. Okay, so for all the fans out there, you know, like if you're a big Donald Trump fan, look at where he is on the spectrum. Look where, you know, I wouldn't totally say Donald Trump was a full-on red spiral dynamics.
So funny, me and you have disagreed about this for years now.
I know.
Especially, it's like one of the only things that we come across where you're like, he's not stage red.
I think he's somewhere in. He's got bits of pieces of red in there, but I don't think he's full-on red.
Well, the thing is, I don't necessarily think he's not red either. I'm not saying he's not there. By the way, just a little caveat, I think everybody falls kind of a little bit. To me, it's a spectrum.
Yes.
And everybody's got a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Some people more than others. Some people are like a deep red person.
Yeah.
You know?
So what color, you know, will shine brightest for you?
Yeah.
And then there'll be little bits of the other colors peppered in.
Yeah.
And the idea of survival of the fittest. And if we take another Star Wars example, the Sith. So stage red seeks truth in its own interests. For red, what I think is what's true. Damn what other people say. The next stage, stage blue, emerges when you realize that the randomness and injustice of stage red threatens life and security. You realize that setting boundaries and mutual agreements leads to less conflict and fewer problems. And stage blue is again about serving others. It's characterized by belief in something higher, either religion or a strong belief system, being Christian, being left or right wing, conservative or liberal, etc. And following its rules, doing what's quote unquote right.
I like how he said right and left. I like how he said that, because usually it's like getting a team of, you know, like-minded people to follow a set of values.
So does that mean that there's aspects of like woke culture that are blue?
Yeah, depending on how dogmatic and ideological you might be.
Like, do you think that there's wokesters that are like, hey, if you're gonna be part of this group, you got to dye your hair blue?
Yeah,
you gotta shave your head to a mohawk. And you know what I mean? It's just funny to think about.
Yeah.
And stage blue tends to make strong contrasts between good and evil, right and wrong. And it seeks truth in the Bible, laws, and social norms. And other examples of blue include organized religion, the Ten Commandments, nationalism and patriotism. Ben Shapiro is a perfect example of a person at stage blue. Hierarchical structures, such as the Indian caste system, law and order, also punishments and the idea of justice, and the idea of good manners and etiquette. They're all fine examples of stage blue. When you feel like stage blue doesn't give you enough freedom to create your own life and doesn't offer any immediate rewards, you move on to stage orange. And stage orange is characterized by the striving of materialistic success. The point of life is to acquire as much wealth as possible, money and women, etc. And the same pattern continues. The last group was about others. This group is again about satisfying yourself, improving yourself and becoming successful, or creating a comfortable life for yourself. And this is the main stage that society today is being run by, especially in the West. Previously it used to be stage blue, but over the recent years it's moved on to stage orange. So stage orange pursues truth in more pragmatic and practical ways, such as science. The idea that truth is found in scientific proof, which leads to more atheism, which is precisely what we see in today's culture. So other examples of stage orange include science, data analysis and quantification, self-help and self-improvement, fashion, capitalism, the idea of hard work, and entrepreneurship, advertising and branding, pop culture, social media, technology, and the Western culture as a whole. When you realize that materialistic wealth doesn't lead to happiness, you want to reconnect with community and spirituality. And that's what leads to...
Alright, so if you resonated with stage orange, hit a like button or leave a comment. Because I think a lot of people who might watch this might resonate with orange there. The whole science and, you know, pragmatic, you know, building your life up for yourself, building a... You know,
maybe I would. Sorry,
yeah.
I don't mean.
And he was saying Western culture in general is very stage orange.
Yes, definitely yes to everything you're saying, and you're right. If you're in the pursuit of self-help, you probably come across spiral dynamics.
Yes,
you know what I mean, because it's in the self-help kind of. it's the same science, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that stage orange people that are like deeply into it, that are the same type of people that are almost like that, similar to stage red but a couple of notches over, would be as receptive to spiral dynamics. Like they might be like, I'll get back to that later when I'm a little further along. I don't know that it would capture their attention as much as somebody who's already getting out of stage orange.
I would say that someone in stage orange is probably the first tier on the spiral that might have a chance at accepting what he's having. Say, I don't. Stage blue is going to think, I could be wrong, but you know what? Yeah, I think stage blues, if you're really dark blue, you're going to think that this is nonsense. It's like pseudo-science bullshit.
Right, unless the stage blue that you were in was like higher, like all about personal development somehow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I see what you're saying.
To stage green, you also realize that not everything can be solved and understood with reason, and that fast-paced materialism isn't environmentally sustainable. So stage green is focused on community, equal rights, and spirituality. There's a focus on emotions rather than rationality, like at stage orange. The point of life is to find meaning and to live in harmony with others and the earth. For stage green, truth is found in emotions. Now, examples of stage green include New Age people, hippies, vegans, yoga, meditation, and tantra. A person would be someone like Bernie Sanders or Pope Francis, Steve Irwin or Bob Ross. Then we have welfare and socialism, recycling and sustainability, equality, love, empathy and compassion, human rights or equal rights, and inclusiveness. Those are all examples of stage green. And now after stage green,
So again, I think we should touch on how stage orange might view stage green. Think about what stage orange is. The thing that we're in. The thing like if we're a fish surrounded by water, we can't really acknowledge the water, but we're like probably in late stage capitalism, hyper orange, right?
Yeah.
And imagine learning that further down on the tier of your cognitive whatever development that you're going to be a friggin' tree hugger.
Yeah.
Imagine the resistance that I ain't going. I'm not going there.
Yeah. I think what helps you maybe like even just give that a thought would be if you were going through maybe like experiencing some of the limits of stage orange. And an example of that might be the current situation that we are in right now. Western cultures are all facing giant recession. People who worked their whole lives to set up beautiful, lavish lives are now losing it. It's all like many people have had to like come to some harsh realities recently that like all the doing everything I was supposed to do and all the hard work and perseverance is now I not only do I not get my reward, I feel empty. Now I can actually feel the emptiness inside because I don't even have my materialism anymore.
Yeah.
It's been sucked out of me.
And I have to be get an apartment with 20 other people because we all can only together afford it. So we're like a commune by default.
Yeah.
But I kind of think like there's two ways that people get to the next stage. I get the sense that sometimes, usually, maybe the more preferred way is that you reach the limits of that stage due to like being super successful at it. Like a stage orange person gets so much success that they're like, oh, like this is kind of empty. What more is there for me to seek in life? That might be a good way to do it. But I do think sometimes, like you say, it's like the economy went belly up and, now I kind of have to, I won't forget everything I've learned from getting to this point, but I've been forced to see things differently. Or maybe you're a fat cat.
It's like
you take for granted other people.
50. You're 50, you're 55, and it's like, it took me like 25 years to get here. It's not like I can't start over and do that again. Yeah. I'm not going to grind another 25 years. I'll be dead. Yeah. Well, the only thing left is either, go back to stage blue or join the hippie commune. I don't know, you're limited.
Yeah.
Reach so-called tier 2 stages. Up to this point, the stages have clashed with each other. They don't understand each other. For example, orange can think of green as too sensitive and woo-woo, whereas green can think of orange as too pragmatic and materialistic. And blue demonizes everyone for not following their rules and customs, their morality, and so forth. But at tier 2, one recognizes the different stages. One understands them and doesn't fight them. So the first stage on tier 2 is stage yellow. You start becoming stage yellow when you realize that stage green lacks the capacity to change the world and solve its complex issues. You realize that the world is complex and works through systems, which is what characterizes stage yellow, systems thinking. Instead of thinking of things linearly, such as in tier 1 stages, that we have a problem and we need a solution for it. For example, we have global warming, so we need to cut all non-renewables. Stage yellow recognizes that there's a complex system at play and it's not always that easy. And there's not always a clear solution. And now for stage yellow, the point of life is to live fully and responsibly. Stage yellow values learning and knowledge. And instead of searching for truth, it recognizes that truth is relative. Now examples of stage yellow would be the study of chaos theory, quantum mechanics, open-mindedness and understanding, going meta and big picture. The concept of spiral dynamics itself is stage yellow. Paradox, examples of people could be Abraham Maslow, Einstein, Schrödinger, Richard Feynman and Barack Obama. Then we also have Wikipedia, the idea of philosophy as a whole, and relativity. But one of the issues that people in stage yellow often have is that they often have a lone wolf mentality. When you realize that you can't solve complex world issues on your own, that it requires collective coordination, you start moving to become stage turquoise.
Before we get into turquoise, I just wanted to note, I like what he said about how stage yellow recognizes that not everything has some easy solution to it. And that might be part of the reason why stage yellow is a lone wolf, because, everyone nowadays, they think they have the answer. It's like, it's global warming, just get rid of gas, shut down the oil sands and stop the oil rigs. It's not that easy, man.
Yeah.
And it's not like, EV vehicles will save us. There's a lot of people pointing to EV vehicles and are like, you have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to EV. Like, EV vehicles cause more pollution than gas guzzling vehicles.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more complex than what you think.
It's almost like certainty itself. Being a person of certainty is almost like a hindrance to being... Bear with me for a sec.
Yellow's relativistic.
Right.
Truth is relative.
Right. So seems like buckle up for if you're going to try to go to stage yellow, you probably have to embrace a lot of I don't know, or wow, I don't realize how much I don't know, and drop the certainty. It is crazy. There are a lot of people that are awfully certain about things,
And that's why they say yellow is usually kind of going to tier 2 is kind of like a quantum leap, because all the other stages up to yellow claim to know. They have the answer. Here's the answer book. And yellow is like, there is no answer.
Yeah, how can you think a novel thought without embracing the unknown?
Yeah.
So far, all you have is stories that you're leaning on, And it's not like that's not understandable. And by the way, as you're making up the spiral, you don't throw away everything you've learned from all the other spirals.
That's true.
You take them with you.
Yeah.
It's an integrative process.
Yeah. All right. Last stage.
And stage turquoise is global and holistic in nature, even more inclusive than stage green, meaning the whole world is seen as one complex living organism. And then the point of life to stage turquoise is to experience the wholeness of existence through mind and spirit. To embody and simply be is how stage turquoise searches for truth. Other examples of stage turquoise would be holism and integration, consciousness and enlightenment, authenticity, yogis, non-duality or authentic spirituality. Examples of people in stage turquoise could be someone like Sadhguru, Muji, Eckhart Tolle, or the Dalai Lama, or Oogway from Kung Fu Panda. And again with Star Wars, a character would be someone like Master Yoda. They would be considered as stage turquoise. So there were the stages. There is still stage coral, which people like Jesus or the Buddha could have been, but little is known about it. And now it's time for some important disclaimers. First off, it's not always black and white. While most people tend to have a dominating stage, you can be at different stages at the same time. At different levels, for example in different fields of your life. In sports you can be stage red, when it comes to your finances, stage orange, and when it comes to your ethics, either stage blue or stage green, for example. And you can either be a healthy or an unhealthy version of each level. For example, a healthy red would be one that makes decisions easily and is a strong leader. But an unhealthy red would be, for example, a dictator that takes advantage of its people, or something like that. And another important disclaimer, there's a tendency to want to rate yourself higher on the spiral than you actually are. Stage red will think it's orange will think it's yellow, and green will think it's turquoise. In general, you rate yourself 2 steps higher than you actually are. And remember that the levels are not quote-unquote better than each other. Orange is not better than red. They're simply fit for different environments. Red excels at hostile environments, such as a war-torn country or a very bad neighborhood. And now if you've seen my previous video, where I talk about the levels of identification, watch that right here, you might see a tangent with spiral dynamics. The correlation with spiral dynamics and identifications are the more your us encompasses, the higher you are on the spiral. Stage beige only thinks about the survival of yourself, and stage turquoise is completely global. And also, you can't skip any stages. You have to integrate them before you can move on. Knowing intellectually the issues of the levels will not make you move to the higher levels. Just because you've watched this video does not mean you're gonna be stage turquoise. You have to really experience the issues, and you have to integrate the levels through experience. You have to embody the value. If you're at stage orange, you have to embody the values of stage orange. Pursue success and materialism. And only that way can you ascend the levels. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments below. Like the video if you got something out of it, and subscribe if you want more. And stay tuned for next week's episode, where I go more in depth on the first stage of spiral dynamics. Spiral dynamics stage beige. If you're watching this in the future, you can see that video right here. Out.
All right. Well, that was a great, breakdown of spiral dynamics. Way to go, Max Saris. I think he really hit the points well.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I was going to ask you is, how loose or solid of a science do you think this is? Like, because, there is that thing of it every time that you have to fully integrate a stage before you move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then,
but he's also saying that you can be partial other stages too at the same time. So maybe as you're if you're, say, more orange than blue, but you still have blue aspects, you're still slowly you might be integrating parts of blue that you didn't maybe integrate properly before you got to orange or something like that. I don't know.
It almost correlates with the idea of burning out your karma. You know what I mean? If you've ever heard that term before,
yeah.
It's like there's certain things you have to do to get out of your system at certain points in your life, right?
Yeah.
And I actually do think that you might be all the way up at yellow or turquoise and still have some orange karma to burn out.
Yep.
It's not over yet. You got to go make a business.
Yeah.
Or something like that. It's an interesting thing to chew on.
Yeah.
The link will be at the bottom of this.
Super
right?
fascinating. One thing he kind of left out. This isn't a tool to try and rate other people and say, look, you're lower on the stage than this person, because that can happen sometimes.
If you're ever going around in the world with any piece of thing and pointing the finger like that, I'd say that's the wrong thing. Sometimes, though, you might gain some understanding of people. I think that's a sign that you're going in the right direction. If it's raising your compassion or raising your tolerance or raising your ability to handle the way people are sometimes.
I like what he said about it being suited to your environment. So if you're watching this video and you look at your surroundings, what are you surrounded? You surrounded by a bunch of stage orange, that might be why you're orange. If you're caught up in the business lifestyle, right? And making money, making bank, and acquiring and all that stuff, and all your neighbors are doing the exact same thing, and everyone in your family is doing the exact same thing.
But it's interesting. This unfolds in society. It unfolds in a human life. I can think of times where there was I would be running with one group of people, and then we would kind of be at different places in our life, so we would go our own different ways.
Yeah.
And then I would reconnect with them years later, and go figure, they ended up you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just with time.
Yeah.
Back into being in more resonance with where you're at.
Yeah. I think it's also extremely relevant and related to your survival needs. I think they're how dependent you are. Imagine an apocalypse came, and everyone might just go back down to stage purple again. Mad Maxville, where you need that savagery just to live.
Yeah, no, I don't think. Well, maybe it's possible that you could go so high that to Buddha status, where it's I ain't going back down. I'm just gonna vanish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I do think that there's a risk of that things could degrade.
Yeah.
you know, and then it's kind of like a reset, and then you got to work your way back up, just as like a be careful, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Super fascinating. Let us know what you guys think about this breakdown on spiral dynamics. Good to be talking about it again. You might want to go check out some of our old videos where we just blab on for hours.
They're long.
But it's fun. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, share with a friend, and everybody, until next time,
Stay spiritual.